Both games balances are just like wild, but what you kind of have to look at the two is with Overwatch, the balance will never ever fix ever. I don't care what you think they're gonna do, it'll never ever change. For Gundam, it's fixable. What's up guys, it's Dunmere. In this video for my stream, I talk about the differences between Gundam Evolutions and Overwatch 2's balances, and why Gundam Evolution has potential with this, and Overwatch 2 really doesn't. So, enjoy guys. Talked about the imbalance in this game in regards to like how shields counter non-shield characters, and then stun characters like myself counter these shields. Making it so, but nothing's counters as stun characters. The stun characters just win, so it's imbalanced to start with, but it's also like not enjoyable for people, and they've like made the game very low intricacy or lowered intricacy because they wanted to like make it so that you could ouch, my shield was up. They wanted to make it so you could carry individually and have like actual like neutral fight wins and stuff like that versus basically anything you play against. They didn't want people to feel dependent on health and stuff like that, so that's the situation of what we're playing against. We captured that waypoint? That was a thing. Oh no, some more people spawn out there too. They're out there getting bullied, laughing themselves at their poor fortune. Right, and so the fact that it doesn't make any sense kind of takes like the worst portions of a game like Overwatch and then combines it with like instead of trying to compete against the worst portion of Overwatch, which is having to coordinate, it ends up making it so like you don't have the fun parts of that coordination, and you don't have the but you have like the painful parts of it. So it's kind of like self-defeating in that purpose. So that's kind of the situation. Now the thing about that is, and the thing I'm going to preface all this like Overwatch 2 versus Gundam stuff is, for Gundam, it's fixable. Except for the maps. The maps, yeah. Game modes, yeah, maybe. For the maps, no fixing. Right? Which is tragic. But even then, you can just start making better maps, and so only some of the maps are bad or whatever. They could like open up some like choke points and stuff like that and fix that portion. It's just not as fixable, but the whole like interaction of shields and melee units and non-melee units can be fixed. All you just have to do is make it so shield tanks, like things with shields, can actually stop cooldowns on them, and they also can't be stunned, or they also can't shoot through them. Like it's necessary to have both of those two things, and then tanks need to be made a little bit tankier, and then you have to actually like use your shield in a way where you block cooldowns on yourself. And so that's the strategy, right? Both games balances are just like wild, but what you kind of have to look at the two is with Overwatch, the balance will never ever fix ever. I don't care what you think they're gonna do, it'll never ever change ever. It's been like this for years. They butchered their game to make it that way. It will never ever change 100%, unless like Microsoft completely takes over and like everything's entirely different, you know? It's never ever changing. And that's honestly just how that goes. Did my like ability just appear into there? Ah, dang it. I should have popped it a tiny bit earlier. And so, yeah, and in a game like Gundam, where in Overwatch, where you do need these tanks, because there is like characters with different abilities and there's space to take. Not every character can just click on a head and murder them, like kill somebody. You do need to have these tank characters. Just happened to me, bro. you need to have them. There's underkitted, and people will realize that pretty soon. And I've already realized it because I'm looking at fundamentals rather than just like feelings, right? And so that's how that goes. Then, like I said, with Overwatch, it'll never change. Overwatch killed their game for super high sustain. They killed their game to have a very, very high sustain based game. And that's just how that goes. Like, you will never see that change because they're afraid to nerf people who, they're afraid to nerf whatever role is the most played and the second most played. They're afraid to have support players nerfed, and they're afraid to nerf DPS. So if they feel like there's an option to fix the game by buffing them, they will. Right? So for them to go, okay, it looks like things aren't dying. Let's nerf the tanks let's nerf the tanks and buff the damage instead of taking care of the healing issue. Because they think that'll fix it, but it doesn't. It looks like it'll work, but it doesn't. Right? And they don't understand that, and they don't care, right? They have a super heavy sustain game, and nothing dies. Unless you're like a head clicker, unless you're a hit scan DPS, nothing dies in that game. That's how it goes. Like, I was playing yesterday, and I was playing on Zarya, and I'm like full charge, and I'm beaming down a Sigma, and it's just not dying because it's getting pocketed. And it's just like, and Zarya's a character that can kill things, and I was like, oh, okay, well, all right. And so that's how that's going to go, and that's how it always will be, and there's nothing you can do about it. And if you don't like it, then you should definitely quit playing right now, because it'll never, ever change. And that's the biggest issue with Overwatch, and that's what killed it, right? So I have been saying good things about Overwatch, but that's the problem. The problem is that they will never change the characters, or they will never change the balance of the game, and they have a fundamental misbalance of numbers. Not fundamental misbalance of characters, fundamental misbalance of numbers, because they sustain too high. A few of the characters have too high, like, fundamentals, like, they're too capable. Brigida's way too capable to do, like, everything, for example. Granted, they finally nerfed her down a little bit, but they also had to, like, nerf her HP and her numbers and everything kind of to the ground to even make that work, too. So. So there are a few fundamentals, but like the core of how things work isn't bad. With like damage characters dealing damage, tanks being able to tank generally, and they can. It's just that they're very weak, like number wise. Essentially, you guys are just up here on our high ground. We do not want that to be a thing. Where is this? Where's this thing shooting me from? And so that's how that goes. But in this game, the numbers are also just like terrible. There are some heavy imbalances. Like, disregarding that thing I said particularly about like the fundamental sort of misunderstanding issue, there is just a capability and balance number issue. For example, with this character I'm playing right now, there's a fundamental issue with like how that character works. I got gun tanked. And so, like, Exia is too strong. Exia is too strong, Meizaku's ult is too strong. Like, the ults in this game are insane. There's a misunderstanding of how you need to balance ultimates. Like, every character has a super long stun, super high damage. Like, I kill whatever I look at ultimate, and it's pretty crazy. Oh. Hey, let's go. Perfect body block. Gosh, I just one-shot both of them, bro. Oh my. Like, I know I'm nanoed, but like, that's insane. Oh my gosh. No, I can't get up there yet. Playing Overwatch 2 and then playing Overwatch is definitely like messing with my base understanding of things though, like my standard reactions. I went to just melee there, but that's where my my spin and slash is bound to. So you're looking at imbalances in the numbers and just the balance of the game in general. In both games, it's just that it's fixable in this game, right? And that's what I like. That it's fixable in both, and Overwatch has a better fundamental like structure and spine to it in regards to like the game as a whole. It's just that they will never ever properly take advantage of that ever. And I would like literally bet my life that they will never fix it, which is a thing. That's just how that goes. So you have to understand that and not to be accepting of that. With having said that though, there is the one biggest difference that I would say from like a feeling perspective of this game versus Overwatch is you can actually kill things in this game. And so while yes, it's kind of painful to play like a Sazabi and stuff like that, you can still actually kill things. When I play Winston in Overwatch, even if I'm playing Winston against like diamond level players, I can't kill them unless my team helps me. And if the supports are even looking at each other in the slightest, they do not die. Like that is how you carry as a support in Overwatch. You look at your other support player and you just put your cooldowns into them. It's insane. So bottom line, is this game better than Overwatch? Is Overwatch better than this game? They both have their strengths and weaknesses, and you need to try them to see which one fits you better. If you don't mind the fact that nothing ever dies in Overwatch and it's a imbalanced mess of like a pseudo MOBA essentially, then go for it and play the game. You know? But if you actually want to be able to kill things, then play this game. And accept that this game also has some serious flaws in like the map design and stuff like that. Like this map design doesn't make any sense, right? There's no like, in Overwatch, every single map has a structure. It has a spine essentially. Like I know people might look at me and be like, oh, well, if they have the same structure, then they're all gonna get like, they're gonna be too similar and they're gonna be boring, you know, but that's not how that works. It's not that they're boring, it's that they are, like they literally have a spine, right? It's like saying like people are all too similar and boring because they each have spines. Well, you don't have spines, you can't move. Right? Because every map in Overwatch to some extent has a center of the map that's exposed and open where the like the payload goes through or where the objective is. And then they have one side of the map that is closed off where you can go as like a brawl character like Reinhardt. And then they have a section of the map that's open up that you can play like spam range characters like Widowmaker and Ashe. Right? And in this game you have like, okay, we have like a, you know, a spam area kind of that's protected. On the right side over here that goes into like an objective that's completely closed off. And then we have like dang, bro. I just barely didn't kill him. Go for it, Metis. Defuse, bro. Always guard these high grounds. What happened? We're about to get rolled by this. Dude, I meleeed it. Did you guys see that? It literally shows that I killed it. But in this game we have like I was saying on the right side over here, we have this like this weird we just die. Okay. We have this weird like side to the right. We have a close range brawl side to the other side too. And then we're looking at like an objective that's indoors and really like on a tight area. You know, and then on the other side you have a really small corridor that goes through another tight area. And it's just kind of weird, you know? And like every map's kind of different. You have these choke points that are like murderously tight. Like literally you can't even travel through them in the slightest. You know? And like on a map like Harbor, you have a thing that's like literally like impossible to go through. Like you should never ever ever lose. Like if two 6v6 perfect teams, two pros, they should never ever ever be pushed past the second point of Harbor. Honestly, they shouldn't even lose the first one. I mean, the first one's just gonna be like a Widow mechanical duel between your snipers. Something else that's a little bit weird about this game that I would say is like, that has to do with how the game modes work. Just the fact that they made it so there's so much added time, and like if you capture the point you get a second attack completely. It makes the game really random and snowball heavy. Also because of the way that they made it so you 100% get a guaranteed attack on, or get like 50% ult charge to start with, is very, very bad. It makes it so that you get like defensive people lose their advantage. So since we had more time, I mean like we're just getting stomped, right? But since we had more time, we get punished disproportionately for it, because they get an advantage for, they get like an automatic advantage of having 50% ult charge. What you have to understand about how ults work in these sort of games is ults are used to break defensive advantages. But they like have like an automatic 50% charge. So while yes, we get them too, we have it basically turns our defensive advantage into like much less of an advantage. So you're gonna see a lot of snowballs, especially in a map like this. So your game modes are gonna feel a little bit weirder. It's gonna feel like two of the game modes are just like the nonsense of 2CP from Overwatch. Just being like dumb, just these stupid, like you finally get some advantage and then you hard push and you just happen to get like a whole set of value out of it. You know? So it's a little bit. Where'd this guy go? So that's kind of how it goes for Overwatch, and that's basically how I feel about the two. My biggest frustration with Gundam Evolution though is that they just didn't advertise it. I could understand. Oh my, okay. All right. I could survive a lot of frustrations with this game if they'd actually just advertised it, because it's like you can work with that, you know. It's like the fundamentals of this game are kind of wonky, but being able to like click on things and stuff like that is fun. It feels fine. Like that's the strength of this game, is just the way that a game feels. Like playing Exia feels great. You know, the way that you click on things, the way you deal damage and all that stuff, it feels really good. I've never had any complaints about that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, some of the stuff is weird, like Dom Trooper roll, for example, just looks stupid, and there's just so much random, like there's so much little bit of wonkiness to it, but in general, that's a strength. But the fact that they didn't advertise it makes me like, this feels like they weren't even trying, you know, what it feels like. So that's why it kind of pushes me towards like Overwatch 2, where I'm looking at them like, or at least be a game, you know? Yeah, I don't know, man. They kind of just abandoned their game for years, and they like sexually assaulted all the people that work at their company, and they butchered their semi-pro scene, their pro scene. A lot of things not to like about them. If you're looking for some more Gundam Evolution videos, then make sure to check out my mobile suit guides. I made one for all original to 14 mobile suits, and I did a Should You Main guide series also, covering the same mobile suits and talking about whether you should actually main them in Gundam Evolution or not.